Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about some of the recruiting news around the nation. Tons of guys committed, a couple of flips this past weekend, so wanted to get you updated on all of that. But now it's time for Good Vibes Monday. Wanted to get everyone started off with some happy notes to start your week. Obviously, Mondays are not necessarily the best day, but let's talk about something good to start your week. But today we're going to talk about some quarterbacks stepping into the spotlight. This time of year is obviously really cool for a number of reasons. You get to get excited about all the different narratives. You get to be totally optimistic about your team because you haven't seen real football yet. You've only seen the great things that come out on social media, the incredible passes, the slow-mo catches, all of the incredible things that come out of these spring practices, and you get to get your sights on, really lofty goals for the next year. But one of my favorite things about this time of year is seeing new starting quarterbacks kind of step into the spotlight and step into the reins of not only, being part of packages or maybe starting a game here and there, but finally being the guy 365 days a year. That's a huge thing for a quarterback, and there are a number of guys that are kind of stepping into that spotlight this year. A couple of younger guys that are doing it that haven't had to wait quite as long as some others are Jackson Arnold and Nico Iamaleava at OU and Tennessee, respectively. Those two guys, in my opinion, are two of the most interesting guys in the country. Obviously, Jackson Arnold had a tough start to his career against Arizona, where he had, I believe, 4 turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. And Nico Iamaleava, totally different. He absolutely looked the part against Iowa. Didn't necessarily light up the stat sheet, but was just remarkable in a number of ways. So he's someone that I really like. I like both these guys. I think they're very, very talented. Sitting behind Dillon Gabriel and Joe Milton, respectively, I think really helps these guys. Obviously, Dillon Gabriel is one of the more accurate and confident quarterbacks in the entire country. So Jackson Arnold learning behind him has to be huge. Very excited to see what these guys can do because the sky's really the limit with the physical ability that these guys have. But now let's get to some guys that have waited their turn a little bit longer than those other guys. Ty Thompson is someone that I have liked for a very long time. I've been waiting for his moment at Oregon, and it just never quite came. He was someone that you could tell really, really wanted to be the starting quarterback at Oregon. He committed, went through, Bo Nix coming in and starting for 2 years, and then you thought maybe he had a shot, and then Dillon Gabriel comes in, and he finds his way to Tulane. So finally, he has a team. It is his team, and he'll get a shot very early on in the season. He has Kansas State and Oklahoma in the first couple of weeks, so he's going to be put in the spotlight very, very early on. If he can, make the most of them, he'll be front page news. And he's someone that is super athletic, is very talented with his legs, but also with his arm, can do a ton of different things. So he's super dynamic. And if Tulane can put it together pretty early on, and even if they don't win both those matchups, if they can push both those guys or maybe even steal one of those, they will be front page news, and Ty Thompson will be a huge reason for that. So very excited to see what he can do. Another guy that's kind of along the same lines, sat for quite some time at Oregon State, and then finally, after, a lot of stuff happened around him in the Pac-12 and in his coach going to Michigan State, Jonathan Smith going to Michigan State, he has decided to join him. So he is now the Michigan State quarterback. It looks like it's his team. It looks like there's not really any challengers for that position. So he will be the starter going into this year. Obviously, I think he thought that when he was eventually a starter, it would be at Oregon State. I think he thought it might have been last year, but then DJ Uiagalelei came in, and now he's a Spartan. So this kid is incredibly athletic, can do just remarkable things on the football field. One of the most athletic players in the entire country, if you ask me, regardless of position. But he's someone I'm very excited to see at the helm of this offense because I think there's going to be growing pains. I think there's going to be ups and downs, but he's going to make some plays that are going to make your jaw drop. And I'm very excited to see not only what he can do in 2024, but how he can kind of build into 2025 and beyond. Because I think the ceiling is really high, but there's obviously some things that need to be worked out, and it can only really be worked out through real game time. So I'm very excited to see him. One of the guys that I am very confident in having a good season of these new crop of quarterbacks is Avery Johnson, and he's a little bit less new. He did start a couple of games late for them, adding a different spark. I think Will Howard, Will Howard had some injury troubles last year, so he was able to start a couple of games, has a ton more under his belt, and is someone that is an absolute game changer. He can absolutely just put a team on his back and win games. His legs are ridiculous, can absolutely move, and he's someone that always has his eyes downfield. Did a couple of just incredible plays in the bowl game where he evades pressure, still has his eyes downfield, and then just slings a ball 30 yards. So he's someone that, although his running ability is going to be the headliner, he can definitely sling the rock, and he does not shy away from that at all. So very excited to see what he can do. I'm very confident that he's going to have a good season, but if he can have a great one, then Kansas State becomes a big-time player very, very quickly. And then two guys here at the end that I really love, that I've been fans of at different points in my college football fandom career. But let's start with Malik Murphy. As some of you might know, if you don't know, I am a Texas fan, so I know this guy pretty well. He's someone that I've been as big a fan of really anyone in the entire country of this kid, because he came in with Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers came over from Ohio State the same year that Malik Murphy was coming into the program from high school. He didn't flinch. He didn't even question that he was going to Texas and he was going to compete. He competed, lost out to Quinn Ewers, got the backup job, and then Arch Manning comes into the fray, and everyone's clamoring for Arch Manning to either be the starter or at least be the backup, so maybe we could see him, but he never was. Malik Murphy was the backup, and although Arch Manning was getting talked about a lot more, Malik Murphy was the better football player for the majority of last year, and now he finally gets a chance to step into the spotlight, and it's at Duke. He transferred there shortly after the season ended, had to miss the playoff game for Texas, which is ridiculous, but that's a totally different segment we can get into later. The thing that jumps off the page for him is his arm talent. His arm strength is ridiculous. He might have the strongest arm in college football. He can absolutely tear the ball downfield, and obviously that doesn't necessarily lead to a ton of wins. We saw Joe Milton can absolutely tear a ball. It's not necessarily that easy. Having that arm talent is only part of the equation, but Malik Murphy is a very, very talented quarterback. He is someone that could play Duke into a lot of different conversations in 2024, because Duke is a little bit of an unknown with a lot of changes going on around there, but Malik Murphy coming in changes your entire game plan on offense, in my opinion. I think they're going to push the ball downfield. They're going to stretch the field. They're going to be a little bit different than what they were with Riley Leonard under the helm, because the skill sets are totally different. So very excited to see what he can do. He obviously has an incredible head on his shoulders, will obviously come into work every single day and be first guy there, last guy leaving, and will give you chances to win football games, but there's still a question mark there, obviously, because of the lack of playing time. So we'll find out very quickly if he's up to the challenge, or if this is going to be, a transfer that kind of is a little bit of a dud. But very excited to see what he can do. I think he's going to kind of light college football on fire a little bit. But finally, let's talk about Brock Vandagriff. He's coming over from Georgia, made his way to Kentucky this past year, and he's kind of the same type of guy as a Ty Thompson or a Malik Murphy, where he really wanted to be the starting quarterback of UGA. He grew up in the area. He went to Prince Academy, just about 20 minutes from the UGA campus, was a fan his entire life, and came to UGA with a lot of promise. A lot of people thought he might be the next guy, but he was behind some dudes. Stetson Bennett took over and became a remarkable player that ended up being a Heisman finalist. Carson Beck is currently the Heisman favorite going into this year, so Vandagriff wasn't going to get on the field, at least not next year by any stretch of the imagination, but now he gets a chance at Kentucky, and some clips have come out, and He's slinging the rock the way that Kentucky fans would hope he would. Has an absolutely beautiful ball and is someone that I think could really mix up the entire college football landscape if he can really put things together, because Kentucky is a good roster, not just offensively, but defensively. They have some dudes. Deone Walker, J.J. Weaver is incredible. So they have a number of guys that can make big time differences. Jamon Dumas-Johnson came over on the defensive side of the ball as well. So Brock Vandagriff is obviously the key to this team unlocking everything. They thought Devin Leary could do it a year ago, never quite came to fruition, but Vandagriff's ability is off the charts, and he's someone that absolutely could have a big year. And if he does, if he does, the ACC or the SEC is going to be a little bit different than people are currently thinking it's going to be. It's going to be a little bit mixed up, and if the SEC is mixed up, that means the entire national picture is mixed up. So Brock Vandagriff might be sitting on the in the shadows right now, but he could definitely make a big name for himself very quickly in 2024, and I tend to think he will. I think the talent is just off the charts with this kid. So I love this time of year. I think it's a really cool time of year to figure out, who the leaders on your team are, who is stepping into their own, and especially if you're getting a new transfer quarterback, is that guy up to the challenge? So it'll be really interesting to see how all of these guys adapt. Obviously, the first time that they're really stepping into that big time role, 365 days a year, and it's an adjustment. So it'll be interesting to see how all of them adjust and how all of them handle it, and whoever handles it well. Wow. Handles it well will likely have the best season of the group, but tons of talent in that group, and can't wait to see what they're able to pull off. But that will do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference for us. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram for all of the content and updates. If you're like me, you are watching every second of college basketball right now, so my guy Nelson over there will have you updated with all of the March Madness news. But we have tons of people doing tons of work across every sport you could think of. So definitely stick around if you want any news. Follow all of those social pages. But for the time being, that'll do it for me. Thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.